Hi guys, Bomber here. Before I go into any details, here is the formula that you can use to actually calculate which of your decks is the best to rank with. So you take 20, which is the amount of LP that you generally get from losing or winning in most of the rankings that you go through. You multiply it by 2 times the win rate of your deck minus 1, here is all into parentheses, and then you divide by the average time that you take T to have a match with this deck. So yeah, now this is the formula, and now we will take a look at how I got this formula and how you can actually calculate which is your deck, and how you can test it basically.
Bomber TV.
Hi guys, Bomber here. Welcome back to the channel, and before we start, a huge thank you to all of my patrons. If you want to join them, please consider checking out the links down below in the description and the pinned comments down below. So to actually get this formula, you have to understand, first of all, the limitation of this formula. This formula is exact around Platinum and Diamond, because in there you will always win 20 and you will always lose 20 LP no matter what. Instead, before than Platinum, you actually sometimes gain more and you lose less. But I thought that that is, even though it changes, it is the same for all the decks. So you don't really need to adjust the formula, because even just 20 is just a value. It could be even a K or whatever letter. It doesn't really matter how much you're gaining from winning or losing. The actual important part is your win rate, which is, you know, it could, in the formula you could also only just have 2 times the win rate minus 1 over the minutes, the time that you play with the deck, and the formula will still hold without any value that is the actual amount that you're winning or losing per actual match. Then in Masters, this falls off a bit. You could still count, you know, how effective it is, but to reach higher goals in Masters, it actually is more important your win rate, because you will start to notice that the higher you get in Masters, the higher the chances of, since you are high, there are more people lower than you in LP rather than above you, and so you will most of the times be faced against opponents with less LP. And when you lose against a player with less LP, you lose more LP, and instead they gain more because of VLO. It's complicated stuff. and also, like, even if you do win, you still win only a little bit and not the actual amount, the usual 20. So like, if you go around like 66% win rate, if you have a deck which is around 66% win rate, which is insane, you can basically go infinite in Masters, because you will always win a bit more than you lose on average, and so that's the win rate maximum amount in which you can actually rank higher and higher in Masters. So for Masters, I would instead encourage you to pick your highest win rate deck no matter what, even though if it takes a bit more time to actually play it. Instead, before Masters, this formula is actually pretty great. So now that we know the limitations, let's see how I got this formula. So basically, you take 20, which is this is basic probability. I will try to go. This is not a math course, so trust me on what I say. So you take 20, which is the amount that you win or lose in a fight, and you multiply it by the percentage of this event happening. So plus 20 happens how many times? For example, 50% win rate. So that's 20 times 50%, which is 0.5. So 20 times the win rate, which is 0.55 again, and then you add the other event, which is minus 20 actually, because you can lose 20 LP. How often does it happen? Well, it is 0.5 again, because if you win 50% of the time, you lose 50% of the time, and that is not coincidence. In fact, you can calculate the opposing event, let's call it like this. So for example, the percentage that I have to get a 1 in a dice of 6 is exactly 1 over 6. The not event, so the opposing event of this, is not getting a 1. So, like, no, not a 2, not a 3, it has exactly to be not a 1. So, how many of those numbers are not a 1? Well, there are 5 of them. So, it's 5 over 6% of, you know, percentage of not getting a 1 on a dice. And so you can start to see that the opposing event is actually 1 minus the percentage of the actual event, the not event. So I don't know if I'm explaining this in an understandable way, but, you know, this is basic probability. So for example, here we can see that not winning is exactly losing. So instead of calling it the losing rate, we can call it the 1 minus the win rate. That is the same thing in a probability standpoint. And so that's why the initial formula that we have, which is 20 times the win rate minus 20 times the lose rate, since, you know, when that happens, you lose 20, actually. So we can start to modify it into being 20, and I will probably have here some, you know, calculations to keep it in mind while I'm going, you know, over it. We can start to change it to 20 times the win rate minus 20 multiplying 1 minus the win rate. You can probably see it here, and so now we can do some basic algebra and multiply things out. So it will become 20 times the win rate minus 20 win rate again, plus 1, actually. So now we can plus 20. So now we can group 20 all together, and we finally can add the 2 win rates together, and we in fact get the formula 20 times 2 win rate minus 1. So that's the part above, and this is the amount of LP that you're getting per each match. So, but this is not the only thing that counts, because you also have to, the best, most efficient way to actually rank is not only how much LP you are gaining per match, because if you take 1 hour to win one match, maybe you're playing a super control deck which wins all the time, but every game lasts for 1 hour or more, like you could be much more efficient if instead you played an aggro deck, for example, which only lasted 5 minutes per match, and you win a little less than what you will win with that control deck, for example, but you played 20 games instead of only 1. It is obviously an exaggeration, but it is to make you understand why it is also so important to also track how much time you're actually spending on the same game with that deck. So time is also important. And what is the best way to measure how effectively you can maximize your time? Well, for example, you can compare it to going into a car. You will get to your destination faster, which is velocity. You know, velocity is the amount of space that you travel divided by the time that you take to get there, you know. So this is the same thing. You can basically calculate the velocity of which you're running by dividing the amount of LP that you're getting, which is the space, basically, dividing it by the time that you actually take to get all those LPs. So this is basically a velocity, because we can call it like that, and in fact you will just have the value that we had right now and divide it by the time, and this is the velocity of ranking. The higher the velocity, of course, the higher the value, the better the deck is. So you have to pick your deck, input the win rate, get briefly, like roughly how much time you take for each match, and this will get you a value, which is the velocity of the deck in ranking, the ladder, and the higher the value, the better the deck is. So this is basically how we get there. How to actually test, what is the data? Well, the win rate is a bit easier to calculate. You can use Mobalytics. You can also, the win rate, you can actually also use the previous win rate that you had before making this test, for example, because the win rate won't really change. I don't think that most people track how much time every deck takes per match. That is a bit more crazy. Mobalytics actually tells you the average amount of time, but it is not specific to the deck, and also it seems to be a bit buggy, so I won't really trust Mobalytics for that. So you can do it manually, basically. Obviously, you don't have to record each time for every deck. That would be a bit, time consuming, actually. Not time consuming, but a bit stressing, to actually all the time take a chronometer, use the chronometer to measure the amount of time that you take. That would be a bit a waste of, stress. It is a stressing thing. So you can, for example, do like 10 matches when you do record the time that you take, and you do an average of that. So 10 games is roughly enough. So you take, here is how I would actually go through it. I would play some games with random decks, and probably also taking the amount of time that I take, since I am at it, and then I will take the most win rate ones, the best win rate ones, and those I will test further and do even more matches to see actually how much time they take. I will do that for probably the 3 most winning decks that I have, and then I will actually use all the data that I gathered, the win rate and also the time. The time is also very important. I will plug in those values in the formula, and I will actually get the value for the decks, and then I will pick the one deck which has the highest value. And so yeah, guys, that's basically it. That's how to choose the most efficient deck to climb with. Also, I would recommend that you do in fact test those decks out, because even though it is true that Mobalytics offers you a lot of choice of which deck you can choose, you basically have all the stats of them. They are not your stats. That's very important. For example, you may be an aggro player by nature, so you are much more, you understand much better how to play an aggro deck, and in fact you have a higher win rate with those decks, because this is your nature basically. And instead with control decks you will do poorly, and so actually you will have a lower win rate than those on the side. So yeah, not all players have the same, it's not really a matter of skill either. It's just a matter of your natural instincts, as a player, your style, basically. You could call it like that. So first of all, try them out. Actually, see if you can feel the deck, if it fits your playstyle. But also another important thing, it is true that this is a video not really taking into account fun, because this is just efficiency. This is not about fun, but also you have to consider that this is still a game, so please also pick a deck which maybe has a slightly lower value than the best deck that you did the calculations for, but please still pick a deck that you have fun with. Like, don't waste time just to get there to the goal. It is not about, reaching the goal. This is about the journey. You should have fun reaching that goal. And so yeah, guys, this went a bit more philosophical at the end, but so yeah, guys, that's it for this video. Hope you liked it and find it useful, and as always, see ya. So yeah, guys, that's it for this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, a comment, and checking out the links in the description and the pinned comment. In there you will find my Instagram, my Twitter, my Patreon, my Discord server, where you can continue to chat with me and all the rest of the community. So that's it for this video. Hope you liked it and find it useful, and as always, see ya.